It is with great honor that I introduce Steve Rubel. Steve is EVP of Global Strategy and Insights for Edelman, the world's largest independent public relations firm. In this role, Rubel studies the future of media and works across the firm's practices and geographies to help clients unify their communication strategies across traditional, emerging, owned, and social channels. In addition, Steve also acts as a highly visible Edelman thought leader and writer on media, technology, and digital culture. In addition, he actively shares his observations and insights through his blog, his monthly Advertising Age column, and on Twitter, where he is followed by more than 60,000. Steve has been named to several prestigious lists, including PR Week's 40 Under 40 and the Forbes.com Web Celeb 25. Please join me in welcoming Steve Rubel to the stage, where he will share with us his insights and knowledge in media.
So thank you very much for having me. I'm in a unique role at Edelman. My job, as you heard, is to kind of think about what the future of media consumption looks like and how it's consumed and monetized across 4 screens. And I write a report once every quarterly-ish called the Clip Report. And it's a throwback to when I was growing up and starting in the PR business, where I actually sat and cut out press clips. And they asked me to talk about today what's black and white, reinventing what's black and white and red all over, which is the old joke, which is a newspaper. And my process for kind of what I go through in thinking about media is that I spend a lot of time with media innovators. I go and talk to folks at the large media companies, the ones at the emerging startups, whether it be at companies like Mashable, who you heard a lot about from Pete about what their strategy is, or I spend time with The Verge or sports media companies, or large ones, and I kind of ask them and I pick their brains about how they're innovating. And my view is that if you want to learn a lot about social media, the best way to do that is to reverse engineer what the media companies are doing, because as an industry, they're doing it extraordinarily well. And so when I started to think about the topic, I said, well, how can I kind of talk about what's changing in media? And I started to think about what's black and white and red all over. And so I thought about animals, because that's what I like to do. So if you think about it, when you look at, I think kind of marketers and media companies are like zebras and elephants. They're really different. So marketers, I'm going to put them as the zebras. They're what they look like. It's got a snout. It's black and white. They're kind of nimble. And I don't mean to say that the media companies are not nimble because they're elephants, but they're elephants. And I found red elephants here. And I actually did a little bit of research. And I found out that in Kenya, in a national park there, they actually live together in harmony. So if you were to go to this national park in Kenya, you would see elephants and you would see zebras, and you would know what's what. And I think that's kind of like what the media environment is like now. You can easily discern what's advertising from what's editorial content. And that's the way it's been for decades. But the problem is, though, that consumption is now different. Consumption, we've put together a model to think about media that we call the media cloverleaf at Edelman. And the idea is that we have broken down media by different types. And we have said, okay, there are traditional outlets that have kind of existing business models and legacy businesses. There are new and emerging media companies like the Mashables and the Verges of the world, the Sports Blog Nations, the Talking Points Memo that are digital native, and they operate in a different way. There's owned media, where every company can be a media company, and more you're hearing about content marketing, and you're hearing about companies, native advertising, and companies creating their own content because they recognize that they too can have a voice. And actually, they're hiring more and more journalists. And then there's social, and we think that this is all mushed up. When I was a kid, and I used to eat TV dinners when I was a kid. Oh man, those were good. And so I'd get the Hungry Man, and there would be like the turkey and the vegetable and the cherry thing, and I used to eat them in order. And my mom came to me one day when I was watching The Wizard of Oz, and she said, Steve, it all gets mushed up in your stomach anyway. That's what media is like now. It's all mixed up. You can't tell where one ends and where one begins. Okay, and so I have this picture on my desktop at work, and I said, gee, This is like what the media environment is now. You can't tell where social ends and where media begins. There's media in your social, and there's social in your media. Okay, and increasingly there's corporate content in your social and social in your corporate content. It's all blended from a consumption standpoint. But the problem is that the business models yet have not emerged the same way. They have not kept up. The business models are still those elephants and those zebras. Okay, the business model is set up that way, where consumption is completely blended. And yes, you hear a lot about native advertising, and you hear a lot about content marketing. That's great. Focus on the bigger picture, which is that there's 4 screens, and all the content is increasingly converging on those screens in one place. And the money is now going to catch up with consumption. So when I think about our animal friends here and my Kenyan analogy here, what happens to these zebras and what happens to these elephants when they're all the same thing? Well, you know what? Just as the ecology is going to evolve, just as the animals are going to evolve, and we have this elephant. Okay, we're going to have this blended thing that is a half elephant and half zebra, and that's what's going to happen in media and marketing. You're going to see that increasingly be blurred together. And so I encourage you, if you're a media company, don't box yourself in. Think about how you let your advertisers create content on your land. It's going to be hard. It's going to be pain. This is, being a zebra elephant is not easy. And if you're marketers, you need to think of yourself as media companies. And we're seeing that more and more. The Economist has an entire agency that's designed to basically help their clients create content. I'm seeing clients of ours like Qualcomm hire former technology journalists to work on site to create content-rich sites that are like magazines. This is all going to blur, and the business models are going to blur too. So if you're in marketing, think of yourselves as media companies. Learn from the media companies. Okay, and if you're in media, you have to think about how you help your clients create content. And that's what the future of media, I think, at a mass level looks like. And if you want to avoid being a dodo, it's great to mate. Okay, so try to, mating is good. And that's the kind of the future model for media is this elephant model. I'm going to have a report about this up by the end of the year, about kind of how this converged media landscape and what it looks like and the impact for media and marketers. And I think I'm at the end of my 10 minutes. Thank you.